Hey there, folks. So, in the last, I'm going to say 2 episodes, I was fixing some of my bad habits, but more importantly, I found there was a bug with our load game logic. If we open up our game instance blueprint, find that here, we ended up adding in a new callback function to correctly address our loading. In here right now, we don't have it. The reason being is I was doing some testing off camera. But what we added in, let me open up Visual Studio here. And Visual Studio is there. In our game instance, sorry, I've been helping with some issues with a couple of followers and subscribers. We added in, so I'm hoping I updated everything properly from source. It could be my issue. I may have to restart this video. Here we go. Complete load level. This was the new function we added in to our load game logic. So we have load game, goes through, checks if it exists. If it doesn't, it returns, clears out the information. Ignore this. Get our currently loaded level. Config game config data, save game object, pulling that out. And then we're calling our blueprint load level function, which is this one. In here, this goes through, assigns everything. And then at the end here, we need to complete load level. Now, as I said, this is something I pulled out because I was doing some testing, trying to see if there's a better way to do this. I'm doing some of that stuff off camera simply just because 9 times out of 10 it doesn't work. And it's very repetitive. It's just me making a minor code change, doing something else. Minor code change, doing something else. Or testing again. But anyways, prior to all of that, we were working on our equipment system. So with that, I do want to get back and start working on that again. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to close out of the editor. It's launched from Visual Studio. As you can see, it's debugging. I'm just cleaning up my desktop here, pulling up my notes. I'm stop debugging because I didn't actually do anything there other than that one blueprint instance, which we saved. So anyways, with that, I'm going to go through, close out all of these here. Don't need stat line, character. Don't need any of these. So where we left off, we were equipping things and then equipping things, but we don't have a way of tracking if the character has something already in that location. If there's a hat on, things like that. So we're not able to remove the previous stats appropriately and then add in the new stats or protection, things like that. Now, there is a few different ways you could go about doing this. And the method I'm going to implement here may not even be the best way of going about it. But this is a way I figured out that I could do it in a way that's going to be expandable in the future. And the reason being for that is here. I'm still not sure exactly what item slots I'm going to have available. And because of that, I was trying to come up with a solution that was universal plug and play, for lack of a better term, where I could add to this list and not have to completely rewrite the equipment stuff. So with that, the way I've decided to go about it is going back to our inventory component, going to be like this. First thing we want to do is add an include, if we can spell include properly, data type, because we do need a reference to our equipment slot.h. Apparently IntelliSense isn't wanting to play nice for me. Now where do I want to add this in here? Inventory contents, owner. Going to add it just here. So we're going to add U property visible anywhere, blueprint read only, meta equals allow private access, as we've done so many times before, equals true, and that just allows us to see it within the editor and things like that. Now, this is where, as I said, I'm trying to go for a universal plug and play method, because the way I have done this and the way I intend to do this is I want a slot type that is unique. So I'm just going to go for an extreme example. Rings. If I was adding rings, there would and I wanted to add a ring to all 10 phalanges. I'll be technical there because you have 2 thumbs and 8 fingers, but they're all a phalange. Anyways, so you wanted to add left thumb, right thumb, and then left, index, middle, ring, pinky. You would add, for all of those, same for the right hand, you would have 10 slot types. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to go there, but go down that road of that level of complexity. But you would add 10 slot types here. And the reason why we would do that is how we're going to go about adding in this equipped item stuff. So we want a T map, and then we're going to use E equipment. I'm just going to grab it from here, make sure my spelling is correct. Equipment slot, and that's going to be our key. And that's why, as I said, in here you're going to have, this method requires you to have a slot defined for each of the item slots you want a character to be able to be equipped. And then we're going to use a T subclass of pointer for the actual thing it's pointing to, the equipment it's pointing to. Actually, we could do that, a T subclass of equipable item. Nope, that's the wrong one. It's down here. And then we're just going to name this equipped items. Now, the whole purpose for this is really down to the way maps work. What are you complaining about? Inappropriate. Okay, let's try putting that back as a U item base. I poked at this and it had no issues before, so I'm not sure why that's not wanting to work. Okay. Are these already pointers, aren't they? Use running, what's the type? Member variable. Oh no, that's this guy. T enum as byte. That's what that was. So I'm going to put you back. So anyways, going back to my explanation to run through what my intent... No, now what are you complaining about? Inappropriate on a variable. Okay, maybe it is saying. I'll let IntelliSense run it. I might have to remove that pointer. Yeah, it's the pointer. That's the issue. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to run through this, and we'll see if this is going to work, because the way I had noted all of this down, it was pointers, so I might have this messed up. Anyway, so the whole way this works is, as I mentioned, the way a map, for anyone who's C# background dictionary, it is a key-driven sorting system. I shouldn't say key driven, but it's a keyed sorting system, where in this case our key is our equipment slot. So that means you can only ever have one item in, or one data set in the equipment slot of, say, head. So I'm trying to think. I'm going to have to dig. Like I say, I'm not sure if this is going to work, because all my pen and paper programming, which most people don't do, I do a lot when I'm making my notes on how I want to develop a particular functionality. I'll write it out and then I type it out. But anyways, so what we've got here is basically a map that is going to store one item per slot. Now, equipable item base is also the parent class for our weapon type, which means in here we're only going to be allowed to carry one weapon. I need to change that. So this is going to be weapon left, ES weapon right. No, 7. So I've done that because I want to be able to have a left hand and a right hand item. Now, going back to our inventory component, we have our add item, where is it? Equip item at index. So quickly running through this code for anyone who's not familiar with this. We're checking, is the owner of this inventory component a character? The reason being for that is we have our inventory component is something that is usable by a container as well as a NPC. The whole reason for that is to try and make this as a universal inventory component. So you can just drop it on an actor and go, okay, this box has inventory, this hollow tree has inventory, this wolf has inventory. Now, purpose of that, because this is not going to be like games like World of Warcraft where you magically find things inside a wolf. That's going to be so that once you've killed it, you can search it and butcher it, harvest it, things like that. But anyways, we're checking if that is a character. If it isn't a character, we're not going to be able to equip anything. If our owner is null, we're going to say invalid owner out of range index. Or again, if we are saying we're using the item that's in an index that we don't actually have. Then we're going equipable item base. We're casting the item in that index slot, getting the owner as a character. If for whatever reason that cast fails, we've got an error here. Owner's character equip item on the slot, and then we're saying if we're passing through the mesh. This function is just the visual component. In here, as item equipped, set as equipped. That is telling the item if it is equipped or not. And the reason being for that is it's just a flag that we're using to see if it's an equipped item. Right now, that's only being used for some UI text changes, but it's going to be used for other things in the future. Let's open this tab over here. And then down here, we're casting if it's a clothing item. And we're just adding it or removing it. So what we need to do here, though, is see if there's something already in the slot. And this is where this T map we've been going. So if what did I name it? Equipped items. equipped items, and then this is as clothing, get slot type. No, I'm doing this the wrong way. I'm assuming that equipped items dot find. Do we want to do this as clothing? No, we can do it as equipped item, because I might want to move this to a different place. Get slot. That's a pointer. Missing. So what we're doing here is we're saying, okay, no, okay, yeah, so I am doing this in the wrong place, and we do want to use as an equipped item. So we don't want to do that here. What we want to do is do it just before we start doing, if it's a clothing item, copy this, and return true here, because we're also going to then have a subsequent if it's a weapon. Trying to think. T slot type equals I'm doing this just so we have a reference, because we're going to be using it a couple of times. So we want to go in here and remove item being used. Trying to think how I want to go about doing this now, because my notes are a little all over the place. No, okay. So what we're going to do here, B bool B has existing equals equipped. Did I spell equipped wrong? Is that my reasoning? Nope. Equipped items dot find as equip item get slot type. And you're a pointer. I keep doing that. Because that's a Boolean inline T split. Find the value says for the parent. No, I don't want find. I think it's what contains. Yeah. Contains is the Boolean one, right? Inline bool. Yeah. Okay. So, again, apologize. Like I say, my notes are all over the place on this one. Because I've been trying to figure out a way to do this that is future-proofing. Okay, so we're going to check has existing. If there's something already in the slot we're trying to equip, we're going to set this to true. If it's a clothing item, we are going to... anyways, it's going to do this backwards. Equipped items dot add as clothing dot get slot type And again, that's a pointer. Why do I keep doing this? As clothing. Reference, no instance from. Nope. That is going to be this one here. No instance of the old. Let's try this a different way. Maybe I'm using the wrong logic. There we go. Yeah, it's because I was casting to the default object instead of passing it through. That's why. Okay, so let's try this again. Going with the other method. Add as clothing, get slot type. There we go. Okay, so I'm just trying to run through this in my head. Because, so we're saying, okay, we've checked, do we already have something? At the very end, we're pushing this back in to say, okay, this is the item that was in there. Do we have a remove item? Oh, yes. Okay. So let's go about this slightly different. Okay, I just realized what I did wrong here. So if, then we want to call equip item at index. Equip items we're storing that, aren't we? Equipped item base. Item base. You're not storing that? Oh, that might be. Where's an equipped item? Slot character mesh is equipped. All right. We need to add a new variable in here. Int. Actually, we're going to add that to our base item, not in our equip item, because it could be usable by everything. Item base. Item description, use text, be usable like so adding in a integer value, inventory index, and then we're just going to add in two helper functions. U function, thank you IntelliSense, blueprint callable, and then we're going to add another one, blueprint callable, blueprint pure, void set inventory index, int. Now, this actually, new index. just quickly. So in here, you can see I haven't gone through and fixed all of these. I'm still working through slowly fixing all of the bad habits of mine. There's a lot throughout the entire project. So, and then anyways, this other one here is going to be int get item inventory index. This is going to be a const because we're returning a value that can't be changed. Create these definitions quickly. And for anyone wondering, yes, I made the mistake of enabling Copilot. I've disabled it. I hate it. So inventory index equals new index. Return inventory index. So this is just temporary. Well, not temporary. This is for our inventory logic here. So where we're going? Or do we need a cast? Why am I having a brain fart on this? I've done this 100 times. Oh, this does not want to play nice in my head. Oh, I've got that stupid arrow in front that... And yeah, no, that's... There we go. Get item inventory index. Equip item index. So we want the index and then false. Okay, so yeah, my brain was all over the place on that. Okay, so what we are doing is when we're equipping something, if we already have the item slot, what we are doing is we are saying equip item at index for the index of the existing, of the item already existing in the slot, which is what all this logic is for. And we're saying false, which is our remove item. And what we need to do there is and be equip. Because this is going to stop it going into an infinite loop. So if this is coming in true, we already have an item in there that matches that slot, and we're saying equip. Or do we want to add that elsewhere? Actually, we're going to put that at the start for order of operations. So if we're saying we're trying to equip an item, and the is equipped. So I'm just trying to. Okay, we're clearing it off. We're setting it as unequipped. Yep. Info item then. Okay, yeah. So that is going through my notes. Sorry, my brain is very bouncy right now. Got 100 different things going on in my personal life, as well as trying to keep this series going. I'll clean this up. So now what we need to do, though, is for this logic, inventory new index, is we need to go through and start adding that. So add item at index. If, okay, item weight, stack weight, if is over carry limit, return false. If the index that we're calling for is greater than the number, we're just adding it to the end. So that'll be the +1 approach. Inventory contents dots. And then we want item get default object set inventory index IDX. I'm just going to copy this because we're going to be doing this in a couple of places here. Add item to stack at index. So if the index is greater than the number, we're calling out. Target item equals this. Int remaining for remaining greater than 0. Item dot get default object. Set inventory index is 0 in this case. I don't know why that's complaining because that's valid. Why did I put a reference in there? Oh, I don't know why. That is bad habit. I can just copy. See, and this is, as I was mentioning a couple episodes back, I have bad habits that I've picked up that are very hard to shift because I've been doing them for so long. Okay, there, the error is gone. Okay, so that's that one. Where's our other add? Add item to top. And that's the same thing just here. Okay. Now, there is one other thing we're going to need to do to account for this. People may be already thinking about this. Doing this, the insert is pushes it to the front, and then everything else gets moved down. So we need to add another function for this in here. It's going to be a private one. We don't need it to be exposed to blueprints, so it's going to be void reassign index. Inventory indexes. So this is going to be a pretty basic one. For int I equals 0, I less than inventory contents dot num I plus plus. So grab this one here. Inventory contents at I. So what this is doing, it's a very basic function, and this is horribly inefficient. I realize my inventory system is not that good right now. I shouldn't say horribly inefficient. This is not efficient. There's better ways you can do this. But what we're just doing here is we're iterating everything in there, and we're just setting the index. Now, we could just do this at the end. Add item can play. And instead of item.getDefaultObject set inventory index 0, I'm just going to call that here at the end. And the reason being for this is we guarantee it goes through. Now, where I think we might run into some issues actually is, again, going back to the map. For some reason, My brain says this needs to be a pointer. I may be entirely wrong. I'm not sure. Because this does not let us use a pointer. So, what are we at? 35 minutes. So, I'm not going to fully test it this episode. We're already at 35 minutes. I don't want to drag this into an hour-long episode, just simply because I don't have the time for that right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through a build here, obviously, just to make sure everything is working. Actually, there's a few other things we're going to need to do, because we've got use item at index. Excuse me. Add item to top, we've got that. So I'm just looking if there's any other places we might want to add that reassign inventory index. Get inventory UI data, nope. Use item at index, yeah, right here. We're going to want to add that in. We've got a fail. Oh, that's why. Left. Forgot about that. Anyways, let's quickly reassign drop item at index. I'm going to put that in here. Equip item at index, we're not changing anything there. Tick inventory. All right, let's try this build one more time. So anyways, this is going to end up running into a multi-part section. Oh, now why you failed. Okay, a couple other places. These are, okay, that's probably because of those bad references there. There you go, build succeeded. So, sorry, I was reading some message. But with that, I am going to end things off here, folks. So, as always, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions, I need help with anything, please feel free to leave a comment below. Better place to do it, hop over onto our Discord server. If it's not in the video description, there's a link in the About channel, that channel about information. I'm a little more responsive on Discord just because YouTube is hit or miss if I get notifications about comments. I found some comments from a couple months ago that I need to go and address, or respond to, sorry, because YouTube never told me about them. But as always, thank you for watching, folks, and I will see you in the next episode.